Hello. I've seen a couple people do these videos, so I thought I would make one myself. About my miscarriage experience and surgery. I will share with you that my fiance is in the military and was stationed about 7 hours away from me. He is currently deployed, so I'm dealing with that too. So bear with me if I tear up or whatever. He come home for Christmas, and you can kind of figure out what happened. I was on birth control. I was taking the pill. I was on Janelle pill, once a day, blah blah blah. I kind of waited for my period to come in January, and it never did. So I took a test on the 17th, and it was positive. So I was all happy, butterflies in my tummy, nervous, excited. So I made a doctor's appointment for the following week, and to have them confirm it. So I went to the doctor on the 22nd of January, 2013, by the way. And she did, in fact, confirm that I had a positive pregnancy test. Told me congratulations and sent me on my merry way. Told me that I needed to go schedule an OB appointment in the next couple weeks. And I did. So I started having this pink discharge. It was just this light pink. Everybody kept telling me, it's nothing. Some people spot. Even the doctor told me. I called the doctor and I was like, I'm having this. Is something wrong? And she said, it's normal. Everybody kept telling me not to worry about anything unless I am in pain or I start bleeding. If I start bleeding, then I need to go to the doctor. I need to go to the hospital and get checked. So I didn't think nothing of it. But then on the 31st, I had this burst of bloody discharge. But that was it. It was no continuous blood. It wasn't like a period or anything like that. It was just that, and that was it. I was good for the rest of the day. But after that happened, I kind of felt, a little different. I don't know if it was the fact that, in my head I'm like, oh my god, is something wrong? Is something wrong? Why did this happen? Worrying myself to death, or if my body actually knew something was wrong. So the next day I went to the hospital just to make sure everything was okay. So that's the 1st of February that I went. Not to mention it was my mama's birthday. So I went to the hospital with my friend, and I kind of told him, I just want to make sure everything's okay. I'm getting paranoid. Just check everything, make sure everything's okay. So I was at the hospital for maybe about 2.5 hours, and the doctor come in and told me that I had a miscarriage. I didn't know what to say or what to think. It was just like an instant cry. It's like you could just snap your fingers, and on command the tears just poured. So he gave me his condolences and just kind of left me in the room for a little while and told me, when I'm ready to come out there and get home. So the first person I called was my fiance, and I'm just hysterical on the phone, bawling my eyes out. Of course, anybody would, no matter how far along you are. At that time, they said that I was 7 weeks. They told me to follow up with my OB the next week and see what to do about it. But he told me that I would be in pain for the next couple days and I would be bleeding, and he gave me some pain medication, but he said that it should all stop pretty soon and that it would be over with. So that weekend, I kind of waited and waited and waited. Never had any bleeding. Never had any pain. I was still crying off the bat. My boobs were still aching and sore, and I was still feeling a tad bit nauseous. So I was still having pregnancy symptoms, and I'm like, okay, the ultrasound lady didn't seem to know what she was doing. Maybe, maybe they didn't. Maybe they just couldn't see a heartbeat. Maybe I wasn't as far along as they thought I was and everything. So I scheduled the appointment at the doctor the Friday, the 8th, and I went in there and she had talked to me about it and kind of, talked to me that she had seen the ultrasound from the hospital, but that she wanted to do another one to make sure. So I went and got another one. So I was kind of at the OB for like 5 or 6 hours, kind of going backwards and forth between doctor to doctor and getting an ultrasound, figuring out what's wrong, having a blood test, and all this stuff done. And she had come in and told me that I did in fact had a miscarriage. So we had talked about my options on what to do, whether to let it come out naturally, have a D&C, or do a pill. Which the pill would just kind of like, open my uterus and dilate my cervix and all that, and it just kind of come out. Or something like that, I don't know. I just kind of didn't listen to it really. I was still in the state of shock of being told I was pregnant, then, like 6 days later getting told I'm not. So then she left again, and about 30 minutes later she come back in the room and said that my ultrasound looked abnormal. She said another doctor, and the ER doctors all looked at it again, and they all thought that it didn't look right, that it didn't look normal. And so they wanted me to go have surgery. As soon as she said that, I panicked. And then, I guess she saw that it scared me. So she kind of explained the procedure to me a little bit and told me that they felt that having surgery would be best and that they would send it off to pathology to make sure that everything was okay. So I kind of had to agree to have surgery. So the following week, I had surgery I went to the doctor, I said on the 8th of February. My surgery was on the 13th of Wednesday, 13th of February. There we go. So at the doctor's appointment, the woman that was going to do my surgery come in and talk to me and explain to me how they were going to do my D&C. And she started getting all teary-eyed, and telling me how sorry she was that this had happened to me, and that if, there's anything that they can do, to let them know. They were real nice and everything, and that she would see me at the hospital, and she would come and see me before I went in for my surgery. So I kind of went up to the hospital that morning. They had scheduled my D&C for 10 o'clock. Actually, no, it was 11:15, but I had to be there at 10. So as soon as I walked in the little surgery waiting room, I was whisked away into this room, and I had, these doctors coming at me telling me to take off my clothes, put this robe on, leave your socks on, we're going to put this on your legs, we're going to give you an IV, we need to draw blood, here, let me prick your finger, put oxygen on. I'm scared to death. I started to panic. All this is happening at once. I'm getting an IV and my blood taken at the same time while a nurse is putting oxygen on me. And this is the first surgery I had ever had without my mom there. So then I started to get upset. So they went and got my mom and brought my mom in there with me to kind of calm me down a little bit. So I've got my mom and my grandma in there with me before I go in. And I started to freak out and I started to panic. So they gave me something. I don't know what it was, but it made me feel good. I will tell you that. It made me feel wonderful. But I will tell you though, leading up to my surgery, the week before my surgery, I could not eat anything. I was so sick. And I was just, pretty much bedridden. I couldn't do anything. I hurt. I was tired. I was nauseous. But I couldn't throw up. I didn't have anything in my system to throw up. All I ever done was drunk and sleep. And so they pretty much explained to me why I was so sick is because it didn't make it, the fetus, zygote, whatever you want to call it. I call it the baby. The baby didn't make it past 2 weeks due to some chromosomal deformation or something. And I was at 8 weeks when I went to go have my surgery. So she said pretty much it had been sitting in my system for 6 weeks. Dead. And that was why I was so sick. It's because it was pretty much rotting inside of me. So of course that is absolutely disgusting. Nobody wants to hear that. That makes everything 10 times worse. But they were very straight up and real with me. They didn't sugarcoat it. They just kind of bluntly said it, but said it in a nice way, in a comforting way. So they rolled me in for my surgery, and I remember putting myself up on the table and moving my butt down towards the edge of the table. And then the nurse is talking to me, and they had a radio playing, and I'm laying there, with my arms out. I'm just kind of laying there. And then after that, I remember waking up in a bed with this nurse beside me. And I had no idea who she was. She wasn't the nurse that I went in with, so I'm kind of like, who are you? And she explained to me who she was. And then I told her that I was in pain. So they gave me some pain medication through my IV. And immediately, I started to have an allergic reaction to it. So, I started to turn kind of red and blotchy. And my face went numb. And I started to pretty much claw my eyes out. I was itching everywhere. It was horrible. So then they're like, oh, Benadryl, shoot me up with Benadryl. So then it kind of went away. They're putting warm rags on, they're putting cool rags on my face and, kind of telling me, don't touch my face, don't touch my face. And the doctor that done my surgery come in and saw me before I left and told me that everything went good, that they're going to send it off to pathology, and that she would see me the next week for a follow-up. So I went home, and I remember everything from, they willed me into me waking up. They put me in a twilight state. They didn't put me under. I remember, coming in here and wanting pizza. So my mom went and got me a stuffed crust pizza because I hadn't eaten anything since, really for 2 or 3 weeks. I just kind of munched on stuff when I found out that I had a miscarriage. And so I ate. I was in a lot of pain afterwards. I was in some major pain. I felt like everything down there was kind of falling out. And it sounds bad, but when you feel it, oh my gosh, you will never ever make fun of somebody that says, I feel like my crotch is about to fall out. Or, when a girl's on a period, I feel like my ovary's falling out. You don't know what that feels like until you've had a D&C. My fiance come home that weekend after my surgery to kind of, be there since he hadn't been there, for anything. Except for when he was here for Christmas. And it's not that he could help it. He was down there. I'm up here. 7 hours away. So he was really sweet and, of course, I cried all the time. He got upset, but he was more or less trying to be the strong one. Not really showing that it hurt him and upset him. He wanted to more or less comfort me. And pretty much done everything for me because it was hard to get up and down off the couch or in the bed or something. I didn't want to stand for long. I would start to hurt. The pain medication kind of made me a little ooh. And I couldn't pull my pants down by myself. I was in a lot of pain. So he would help me with everything. And I bled a lot. So I went back to the doctor on the 19th of February and had another ultrasound. And she said that everything, looked okay. Because I thought I had a UTI because my back started to hurt really, really bad. I started waking up in the middle of the night crying and screaming from my back hurting so much. And it would run down my legs, and it wouldn't go away until I took a pain pill and went to sleep. So I went to the doctor. They said that I had a possible UTI, that they were going to treat me for a UTI, and they were going to send my urine off to get cultured. And if it come back that I had something different, that they would call and tell me to stop taking the antibiotic for that and call me on something else. So I was like, okay, UTI, typical, lower back pain you get from a UTI. So then they scheduled me for another ultrasound that following Friday, which is the 22nd. So this is like the 4th or 5th vaginal ultrasound I've had, not counting the surgery. And she said that everything looked normal, that my results from pathology come back, that it just looked abnormal, but everything was good, that, it just had, a chromosomal deformation, whatever you want to say. And she said, she tried to reassure me that 75% of women have a miscarriage their first time. Well, I didn't feel like that. Everybody around me is getting pregnant, and then I get pregnant, and I'll lose my child. That's the way I felt like. Like, seriously? No. But everything was okay. Everything's good. The reason I have my lower back pain is because your pregnancy hormones loosened your ligaments, and it loosened mine a little bit too much. So I'm going to physical therapy now to strengthen the muscles in my lower back and get my ligaments where they need to be. I'm not in any pain anymore. I just started my period again, yay me, after not having it for so long. I just thought I'd kind of share with you my experience, because I didn't have any pain, I didn't have any bleeding like most people do. Just kind of had a little bit of spotting and discharge, and then next thing I know, it's a miscarriage. So it can happen, and if anybody can give me any advice on how to kind of deal with it, I'm still struggling. I still have my nights, and if you want to leave a video response, or you need somebody to talk to or whatever, feel free to message me or whatever. I'm open to really talking to anybody. So I apologize for how I look too. I kind of just got out of the shower and done my hair, blow dried it, whatever. So thank you. Bye.